Hello. Hello, police. Yeah, what's the problem, sir? We just drove down our farm track. Yeah. Go and feed our pheasants. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it. Yeah. It appears that they're dead. I don't know what's happening. Blood in the motor all over them.
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. I'd got my fingers burnt with the Mondeo, but this was different. I had an E-Reg Jaguar for sale which had been in the paper for a couple of weeks with not much interest when Mick phoned me up and said he was interested in buying it. He and Peter Corey turned up at my house at around 5 PM, and Corey took the car for a drive around the block. Once he got back, Mick said he'd give me £3,000, and we shook hands on it. We never talked about it in detail, but I know Mick was hoping to use it to tow the boat and trailer, rather than always using Jack's transit van. I mean, I didn't care what he did with it. Once he bought it, the car was out of my hands and nothing to do with me. Mick said he didn't have that amount of money on him at that moment, but he'd pay me after the weekend. No problem, Mick. Do you and Peter fancy a cup of tea? Oh, we're in a bit of a hurry actually, Darren. We better get going. And they did, with Mick driving his Hilux and Corey in the Jaguar. As soon as they'd gone, I sent a message to Jim's pager. Tell him to call Darren, urgently, I told the woman. A few minutes later, he called me on my mobile. Internal Investigation Bureau, Essex Police. Transcript of covertly recorded telephone conversations. Source, desk phone of DC Jim. Date, the 9th of the 5th, 1996. Hello. Alright, you can save some money and ring me at home if you want. Oh, don't worry, it's the firm's phone. Well, Mick's been round. He wanted to buy my Jag. They'll be back around on Tuesday because they're now in possession of what they want. Yeah? Yeah, they're coming back. Right. Because he said to me, I'm trying to use different vehicles for everything. He said because the amount of times that Jack has used the same motor to pick the gear up off the beach, they also want to use it to run some dough abroad. Okay, right. That's good, that is. So really all you've got to do is steal that car when it goes abroad next time and keep the loot. That wouldn't be a fucking bad idea, would it? No, it wouldn't. That would be a bloody good idea. Wouldn't that be nice between us? Yeah. It'd be like 100 and something odd £1,000. More than that actually. No, it'd be like 150 grand I reckon. Oh. There's a lot of gear down there. Yeah, exactly. He wants to borrow my Land Rover to put the boat in sometime next week. Just thought I'd tell you. Urge to catch someone? Oh, no. Let it run, because you'll have a nice little bit of play around here anyway. Yeah, well, blimey. You'll be able to get loads of people. I'll dish it out like sweets. As long as you get paid for it. Well, I'll make sure I'll get the cash before I tell you. Yeah, exactly, Darren. End of tape. Darren Nicholls states, I was really starting to worry about Jim. He was still going on about this idea of me selling drugs to people and then him nicking them. It hadn't happened yet though. He had a weird way of working. There are some things that he'd tell me that I'm sure I was never supposed to hear, and others that he would keep mum about, even if I already knew. I wondered whether everything he was saying, including all the stuff about letting Jack and Mick carry on for now, was just some kind of smokescreen. After all, I couldn't work out why he wasn't jumping up and down with excitement at the prospect of bringing them in. Surely that was worth far more kudos than half a dozen small-time street dealers. Maybe he was just being cool, or maybe he was just being crap. I was starting to lose faith that it was ever going to happen, but I travelled so far down the road with him, there was no point in turning back. I just had to keep going. To take my mind off things, I spent most of Friday night and a fair amount of Saturday morning working out what I was going to do with the money from the Jag. So when Mick called me up later that morning to say that he didn't want it after all, I felt as though a part of my world had collapsed. In order to be capable of pulling the boat, the Jaguar needed a tow bar fitted, but because it was one of those models with a digital dashboard, it needed a special module which was going to take forever to order. Instead, Mick asked if he could borrow my Land Rover, and when I agreed, he told me to come round and pick up the Jag when I dropped the Land Rover off. I had a few things to do that day, so I didn't set off for Meadow Cottage until Saturday evening. Once I arrived, Mick drove me in his Hilux over to the Robin Hood pub car park where he'd left the Jaguar. He said he'd put £30 worth of petrol in the car and would also buy me a drink sometime to make up for the inconvenience. For the first time in a long time, I felt a twinge of guilt. There I was trying my hardest to get this bloke nicked, and all of a sudden he was treating me with a bit of respect. I didn't hear from Mick again until Sunday morning, when he asked if I could do him a huge favour and give him a lift to meet Jack that afternoon. We arranged to meet in a pub near Great Bentley Village, and I set off in my Jag in the middle of the afternoon. I was waiting in the car park when Mick turned up in his Toyota RAV4, being driven by Jackie Street. Paul Gwinnett was also in the car. Mick and Paul took a couple of bags and some fishing rods out of the Toyota and put them in the back of my car before both getting in. "Where to, Gov?" I asked Mick. It was pretty obvious I'd been magically transformed into a cab driver for the day, so I thought I might as well act like one. Mick told me to go up the A12 towards the Ipswich roundabout. More than once he told me not to drive so fast, and when we got to the Cop Dock roundabout he told me to turn right and stop at the first petrol station I saw. I did so and saw Jack already in the garage of his blue Transit towing a trailer carrying the boat. We all got out and went into the garage while Jack filled the boat with petrol. I thought I'd be leaving them there, but Mick told me he wanted me to drive him and Gwinnett to Levington Marina. We stopped in a lay-by just outside, and Mick and Paul opened up their bags and put on a couple of dry suits. They then unstrapped the boat, removed the number plates, and made it ready to go straight into the water. National Investigation Service, Customs and Excise Surveillance Log, 12th of May 1996. Mobile Surveillance Unit. At 17:10, I saw a blue transit van towing a black and orange rigid hull inflatable boat with a large blue engine drive into Levington Marina, immediately followed by a black Jaguar, which contained 3 occupants. At 17:11, a man who had been identified to me as Jack Womes parked the van near the Harbour Master's office and went in. At 17:15, the van, Lima 98 Yankee Delta X-Ray, with the rib still attached, was parked by the Harbour office. The empty Jaguar was parked alongside. Jack Womes and a man who had been identified to me as Michael Steele were standing talking together and looking down at the slipway. A third man, who I would describe as stocky with curly black hair, Nicholls, was standing looking around the general area. At 17:20, the blue van and rib turned around and drove towards the slip. At 17:25, the rib was reversed down the slip with Michael Steele, who was wearing a blue-red sailing suit, and a fourth man, Gwinnett, who had collar-length hair and was wearing light blue waterproof trousers and a dark jacket, already aboard. The engine was started immediately and the boat entered the water. The vessel then manoeuvred at the bottom of the slip and exited the marina via the harbour entrance. It then headed east down the River Orwell towards the North Sea. The blue transit van driven by Womes then drove up the slip and out of the marina. The third man, Nicholls, who had been standing around watching the vessel launch and looking around, then walked to the Jaguar and drove out of marina at 17:28. I was then involved in the mobile surveillance of the blue transit and empty trailer as well as the Jaguar. Both vehicles were seen to stop at a lay-by close to the marina. The driver of the Jaguar then had a short conversation with Womes, who was sitting in the driver's seat of the transit van. End of log. Darren Nicholls states, "I watched the boat go out to sea, and then Jack told me to meet him back in the lay-by. He was refitting the trailer when I pulled up behind him and then got in the back of the transit." "So how come you're not involved in our business these days?" he asked me. He was sitting in the driver's seat, staring forward through the windscreen. He was like he was trying to be cool or something. I scratched my head. "Well, I don't have a passport anymore, but the main thing is it just wasn't worth it. I never really earned any money out of it." Jack nodded slowly, still staring straight ahead. "Well, if you invested a bit of money in it," he continued, "then you'd make a lot more. Mick and I were talking, and we wanted you to go down to Spain and run that end of the operation for us. We think you'd be good at it. We'd pay all your expenses and everything. It's a good offer." "I'm not really interested. I don't really think this is the right business for me, especially after what happened at Christmas." Jack's face erupted into a cheesy smile, which faded as quickly as it had appeared. Then he looked directly at me for the first time. "Here's the thing, Darren. We want you to get more involved. If you don't, that's going to cause problems. What happened to Pat could easily happen to you. You can be replaced." I suddenly got this weird sensation, like I was flying backwards really fast. I wanted to be sick. I felt my legs buckle and my throat dried up in an instant. I thought I was going to faint and had to hold onto the side of the transit to steady myself. I couldn't speak. I was numb with shock. Jack had just threatened to kill me. I was speechless. "I'll probably call you later tonight," Jack said. "I might need you to do us a favour. That won't be a problem, will it?" I looked at him. His eyes were dead. There was no humour in his face at all. He was like a machine. It crossed my mind that he probably had exactly the same look on his face when he carried out the murders. I forced out some words. No, Jack. That won't be a problem at all. You've been listening to Blogs 19, written by Tony Thompson. This book is available to purchase online at Amazon and other online book retailers. Many thanks for joining me for this video. Very shortly you'll be able to see some other videos from the channel, including the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I look forward to seeing you all again in the next video. Take care. Cheers.